Well, hello everybody. What's the crack? Well, are you doing alright? It is Friday the 11th of February 2022. If you were a Patreon, you would have gotten this last night ad-free. Of course, if you would have read the title, it is a Swapcast. Putting out a little Swapcast with two of my favourite lads of all time. Yeah, do you know, it's fun to do it. Hang out with other podcasters and, yeah, God, I had a good time with the lads. Before I jump in, just a minute of your time, I'm going to be in Belfast, April 23rd, with my brand new show, Clattered. I'm going to be there on the Saturday, the 23rd of April, in the limelight. Also, the Wild Duck in Dublin on May 5th, and there's a Portlaoise Galway date and a Cork date to be coming very, very soon. So if you haven't subscribed, if you're brand new and you're going, Jesus, I missed the boys one earlier this week, who's this Tom fella? Go have a gander. Buckshot has rakes there. Follow me on all the usual platforms. Yeah, no. Patreons get stuff ad free. They get the videos typically with, you know, interviews that I do on a Friday. And we do live shows. Unrecorded, uncensored live shows where we pick a subject and we have an old bit of crack with it. It's all going on over there. You know, it's good crack. I would ask, if you are listening on Spotify right now, would you do me a favour? Some absolute atrocious human. I don't know what they marked it. We were going brilliant. We'd nothing but 5 stars all the way. And somebody, I don't know what, you can't see who does it. It's anonymous. Anonymous even. They marked it some which way and it's after bringing it to a 4.9, which is a sickener. Absolute sickener. So, if you wouldn't mind, if you are listening on Spotify, just slip out there. Go to the top page and you'll see the little rate button up the top. Give it the 5 stars. And if you are feeling bad-minded, don't give it anything at all. Do you get me? Because that's of no use to anybody. It's only bad-mindedness is all people would do it for. Do you know? It's of no benefit. The benefit of it getting full 5 stars is it becomes more visible to more people. Hence, more people come and join the show. Anyway, today's show is with two of my favourite people, Rob and Eamon from the Monster Fuzz podcast. If you haven't listened to the lads, oh my God, get over it. It is just pure milk and honey for your ears. And it's brilliantly, it's kind of it is informative. It's a little bit on the supernatural side of things, but above all else, it's ridiculously fun. And this is one of those chats where this could have gone on for 5 hours of just silliness. We discussed the Selkie. Now, I'd never heard of a Selkie. I didn't realise they were called Selkies, but yeah, a Selkie. Celtic and Norse mythology. A Selkie basically is a shape-shifting seal, which probably led to it possibly being thought of what a mermaid was. But either way, there was a lot of side chat. Mickeys were talked about, being kind of pervy was talked about, and the crack was had throughout. I had an absolute ball with the lads, as I always do. They'll be coming back over onto mine in the very near future, but for now, sit back and enjoy the boys from Monster Fuzz.
My little crypt, yeah. And this is the script, yeah. I wanna quit, yeah, and use against my enemies, yeah. You see, I wanted to save you, and then learn how to raise you. But I forget you're from the wilderness.
Eamon.
Robert.
Tom.
Well,
How's it going, lads?
We're blessed. We're blessed to have Tom here with us today, Rob. Tom O'Mahony. What a man. Back for the second time on the podcast.
He is indeed. He's here to join us. Now, Tom, I've got a question for you. Do you like poems?
I love poems. I'm really...
Okay.
The more abstract the poem, the better. That really tests me. Over lockdown,
Okay.
I've really tested myself. I found myself sitting by, the bay window with the rain lashing against the outside sash, just reading poems after poems.
Not unlike a Selkie.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Just
Yeah.
forlorn
by the window looking out.
I mean, granted, I'm in the biggest inland county in the country at the moment. But I can look at a river.
A landlocked Selkie. Yeah. Right, so guys, Rob, Eamon and Tom O'Mahony swimming in the sea with the bold Selkie. We reach the shore and there are only two. It's Rob and Tom. We are missing who? Eamon, of course, the one who likes swimming. We look out to the water to find Xenu grinning. Tee-hee, he says as he paddles with ease. He's trying to grab the arse of that bald Selkie. The creature is alarmed and makes an escape. Eamon turns to us unaware of his fate, for behind him is a beast as glorious as it is fearsome. Its name is the Kraken. Eamon, you're getting wrecked, son. The beast plucks Eamon from out of the water and tosses him to the shore, saving him from slaughter. Monster Fuzz podcast. Hey, we've got Tom. Hurry up and listen quick. Get right or get wrong. Now.
So extremely abstract stuff there, Tom. You're probably very much into it.
I found myself twirling my moustache throughout all of that.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what I mean? I wish I had some beard moustache oil. Just
Nice.
That was fantastic. I want a monocle and everything after hearing that. Ooh.
Well, thanks, Tom. Now, but this other fella here probably has a song,
you
something
see,
to do with that anyway.
The old back and forth with the song versus the poem. So with this one, I'm trying to grab a Selkie's arse. Obviously, is that while it's a seal Selkie, or is it a woman at this point, or is it a?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Okay, and the Kraken gets me. Okay, all right. Let's try. In the water, it's nice and wet. My favorite show is Boba Fett. Swimming through the tides, I've been going through the waves. Over there, is that a lady? Get a little closer, I see her hair. Get a little closer to over there. What is that? Is that a full moon? Oh my God, no, that's the way she moves. I try to grab ass, but the ass got away. I try to grab ass, but it swam away. I wanna get me a handful of Selkie, but instead I get 8 tenties, 8 tentacles coming at me, going in my mouth and trying my gi, but I don't have a gi. That's my man gi. It's my hole. I used to be on the dole. Now I got a Selkie in over there and a Kraken in every orifice. Thought that the Selkie would be really good, but it turns out that I'm in a Kraken mood. There you go.
No. Wow. Drops mic there. Bula bus, folks.
Bula bus.
That's a bit of a... What do you think of that, Tom? That was fairly emotional,
That
wasn't
was
it?
incredible. It started off a little country, and then it went a bit. It was Shania Twain, really, wasn't it? That's how I was.
It's hard to know. You see, sometimes we go. See, it's a tricky old thing when you're just singing and you don't know. There's no words. There's no words written out, so you're just hoping that they find your mouth. Not unlike a Kraken's tentacle, but so it's a tricky old endeavor now. Rob puts me under pressure every week like this. I'm thinking of starting my own podcast. It's just going to be called "Leave Me Alone."
That's exactly how a country song is written. It's like pick a premise, truck, bird left
Be
me.
under duress.
Yeah, and just go for it into the studio. We've only got
Hope
half an
for
hour.
the best.
What is going on, guys? I'm Rob.
I'm Eamon.
This is a cheeky Monster Fuzz with Tom. Say hello, Tom.
How you keep him?
Right. Now, before we get into it, we usually do all of our advertising here and everything, but I believe, Tom, there is a live show coming up soon, so do tell us all about that.
Yeah, my brand new stand-up show, Clattered. And has to be said by, you got to lean into the 2 T's as well in the middle of
really
Clattered.
Clattered.
Right. Just anybody who's pronounced it like that won't be allowed in. It's Clattered.
I'm going to Clattered tonight.
Yeah, Clattered. Yeah, so we're gonna debut it in the Limelight in Belfast on the 23rd of April, and I just prior to pressing record, guys, just booked in on the 5th of May. It's going to be in Dublin at the Wild Duck. So there'll be a couple of more dates around the country, but if they just want to keep a close eye on old Tom O'Mahony on whatever platform they want, they'll find it. So yeah, very excited. 2 years worth of jokes, winding the brain off myself, lads.
Is this the first show since the sort of lockdown and the first big one, or is this your first?
It is the first big one. Like I was snaking out all the time. Truth be told, lads, I was snaking north. Any chance
you
I
were
got.
a slippery lad. Yeah, I seen you on Instagram there. You were like a Selkie yourself, swimming around the place.
I was exactly like a Selkie. They were going, is that a Tipperary man? No, I was just snaking up the motorways and the back roads wherever I could get to a gig. I was doing them. So I was I snuck in a couple. It was great. I was able to pop up to the likes of Belfast and stuff like that. And where they responsibly were able to put on gigs and they didn't get caught up in red tape and whatnot. And but also like during the lifts. But prior to all this, I was doing 3-4 gigs a week. So this, even a month off, which the last ones were the Laughter Lounge in Dublin on November. So it's like, okay. But, my own podcast kind of keeps... I do a Patreon one during the week, and it is a ramble, but it's catered towards me more than anything else, so that I can try and tailor bits. And in fairness,
I enjoy the ramble. The ramble's very
great,
good.
yeah.
It's really good. I like that because it gets your thought process across, and I think it's always really funny to hear a comedian's thought process, because you're trying to find the funny and everything, which is good. Like it's a refreshing listen rather than the old dour shite that you hear all the time on podcasts.
I can't profess to follow many of those people. But that's exactly it. You try and root it out. Like I put up a clip because people found it funny, but I put up a clip about the discovery of where shellac for the shellac nails comes out of.
Yeah, right, okay.
And that, if anybody wants to see what Rob is talking about, where I literally started mining through my head to see, can I find some humour in shellac nails? And I ended up in this 3-minute bit about how disgusting the actual process is of harvesting shellac for people's nails. It's beyond gross. Like is it
like Worcestershire sauce levels of gross?
It is up there. Like Monster Fuzz would hardly tackle it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, right. It's like a cryptid in its own right.
It actually is. The lac beetle is rank.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
The shellac, they don't have to kill the beetle. The she leaves from her reproductive organs leaves a slime on a stick that crystallizes, that they scrape off and melt down into. So essentially it's bug fanny juice that they're putting on girls' nails. So next time, if there's anybody listening, I'm not suggesting only women have it, but whoever has shellac listening right now, I wouldn't bite your nails. I wouldn't bite it. Yeah.
Well, I suppose, look, long term, you're either getting it on your fingers or you're having a moustache of it. So I suppose one way or the other, just play the game.
I never expected to be painted on an oak door, though, Eamon. You know what I mean? Like
the lengths we go to for beauty, and Botox is something quite bizarre as well. I believe some type of toxin. Is it taken from? That's taken from something really bizarre as well, and I can't remember what. It escapes me at the minute, but I remember reading it and I was like, women are fucking metal. Like, they're doing really metal shit with their for beauty, in the name of beauty.
And most of it's probably made here in Ireland. The most obscure things. Like, we're the biggest we're the biggest producers of Botox here in Ireland. We produce in Kildare somewhere, or Longford, some abstract little industrial estate, make the most fake tits, fake boobs,
really,
in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not in like a major city. It's some abstract little town. Just that's what everybody does. They go and make saline breasts for
Right. We're not making the silicone vaginas yet here, are we? We're not known for that.
Soon.
No, lads still accept a cup full of warm liver. Apparently, so
yeah. To be fair, we've not. If you put it between the couch, it's like an arse. You're having a great time.
That's what it's from botulism. Botox comes from botulism.
That's it.
So that's where it was. Yeah,
it's like it's watered down like 10 million. So your skin is basically trying to reacting to one of the world's most lethal poisons, and people are going, yes, put that in my face. It's what the face is going to look like in 10 years' time as a result. Just scrotum foreheads on these girls walking around. I say girls, but loads of lads are getting it now as well.
Are they getting stem cell fucking Mickey foreskin stuff?
I seen Jordan Peterson, man. He looks like he's out there getting a bit of a wax head going about him nowadays.
I think he's on a fully meat diet. All he eats is like meat and salt. And that's what happens to your body, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know though. He kind of looks like a bet Mickey. Do you know what I mean?
He's had a bad few years now, to be fair. I had a very serious addiction to benzodiazepines. And the hierarchy of drugs in my system was very damaging to my mind.
I mean, for such a well-spoken, smart man, at the same time, you'd only last about 2 mouthfuls into a pint sitting alongside him, wouldn't you? You'd go, shut up to fuck, will you, for 1 second? Can we just fucking not go there? He's zero crack. There's zero crack in that man, like.
I'd say, I'd bring him down to Tremor and I'd play Street Fighter with him till his fingers bled. I'd say, you missed that in the 90s, Jordan. You learn how to do quarter circle forward punch. Come on now.
It was Mortal Kombat and Tremor for me. I was the king of Mortal Kombat and Tremor.
Oh, really? Down Tremor?
Yeah.
Who was your man? How did you pick? Liu Kang? Bit of cheeky Liu Kang? Bit of Raiden or someone?
No, I always went for Sub-Zero. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I always went for Sub-Zero.
Freeze and uppercut. That was like the gangster move as a kid, right?
Good night, Irene, I used to call it.
Right. Anyway, lads, before we get into too much of the Mortal Kombat Street Fighter, because we really will talk about that all night.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you one thing
I'll
for sure.
fucking do it.
Check out Tom's upcoming show as well, Clattered. If you're not from Belfast, you're from the Republic here, it's a good weekend actually to go up to Belfast, and it's good that it's on a Saturday night as well, because you can sort of have a Friday up there too. But good spot, good show, and I've seen Tom on YouTube perform. Haven't had the pleasure yet live, but very good stuff, Tom, so do check it out, guys. And just a little bit of regular housekeeping from us. If you would like to leave reviews, please do. We're also on SpeakPipe if you want to call in with a voice note. We're on Patreon if you would like to support the podcast. All of that stuff is over there. The merch, all of that good stuff. Link is in description. Eamon, if they have any spooky stories or any shit like that you want to send in,
if like me, you have been hentaied by an octopus, do write in to monsterfuzzpodcast@gmail.com and describe your experience of that predicament. I quite enjoyed it.
Right, yeah, right. So, Tom, why don't you tell us what's a Selkie then?
So excuse me, the Selkie had me nicked there. It's an old...
The curse of the Selkie.
The curse of the Selkie. In Celtic and Norse mythology, a Selkie is basically a shape-shifting seal that can turn into a woman upon shedding its skin. Tales of Selkies, or similar type creatures, have popped up in many cultures and places. Scotland, Iceland, Faroe Islands, Ireland, and more.
So, what did you... Right, so here's a question for you guys before we get too much into it. Selkies, had you heard much about them before this episode? And if you had done, what did you know about them? Eamon, I'll let that go to you first.
Literally, the first I heard of a Selkie, because we talked about it before we went live, was that fucking Colin Farrell movie, Ondine. Where he
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, I saw it I think I saw it in the cinema like 15. I can't remember how long ago. It was a fucking long time ago.
Is it worth a look?
Yeah, it's grand. It's grand.
Yeah.
Was this pre or post Tigerland, or was it in or around the Ballycus Angel years?
It would have been. I think he had made it big. I think he had been.
Tigerland was good.
Tigerland was. He had been Bullseye and Daredevil at this point.
So he did the riding video at this stage as well, did he?
Yes.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Because didn't he do the riding video with the fucking bullseye thing on his head?
He did.
And he's like,
he
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not even joking. Yeah. That's what I said to her. That's what I said to her when he was down there eating her.
Yeah.
He's some man to wash funk off him by, isn't he? Like anybody else like Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee will forever have that riding video about him. Like he did that, and he did live line dancing on the fucking television like back in the day, Colin Farrell, and none of that touches him.
No,
the Teflon Don.
Teflon Don.
Who would say that though? You know, you're down on someone and you look up at him, make eye contact while she's filming, and go breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not even joking.
Yeah. I think it's the only, you can only say it as a man to a woman, because what happens to your man and the girls go down and she says something like, breakfast, lunch, not in that accent obviously, but she'll say something more sexy, you just nut immediately. At least with a woman there's less chance of that happening.
I think that's one of the only sex tips that did more harm than good for people. I think that damaged poor old Colin. I think it took him a few years to recover from that.
Well, didn't he stop drinking and all after a while, wasn't it? But again, he's one of the only characters where, like, the movie Alexander about him, right? Where, like, just because he was like, I'm not doing that bleeding fucking accent. You're like, grand, Colin, that's fine. Everyone else can do a silly Dublin accent and we'll just get on with it. And they were like, yeah, no bother. Like, he must have mad street cred or something in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course he does. Tom, did you know anything about the Selkie?
I didn't know they were called Selkies. No, I didn't. It was my wife told me as I was coming out. She was like, oh, Selkie. Yeah, yes. Now, again, she grew up closer to the sea. Maybe, I don't know. But I did know about, I knew their mermaid / seal thing that people were.
Yeah.
There was a misconception that they were that. There was obviously stories around it that because back in the day you could spin any old shite, couldn't you? And people would just go, fair enough. Do you know there was no fact checking? You know, so
it's basically modern day podcasts. It's like basically back then, but like these guys that made up these stories were the podcasters of back then. You know, because it's like no one fact checks a podcast, like because they're too lazy. They're just listening to it in their ears, so they're not going to be sitting around fact checking it. You know.
And if they are, you're zero crack. Honest to God.
Yeah. You're no crack. You're no crack at all. But I was the same. I thought they were Scottish, to be honest. I was like, these are a Scottish creature, and then I was like, hang on. And the more I did research, first I thought they were Irish. Then I did more research, and I was like, these are fucking Scottish. These aren't even Irish. I thought these were an Irish thing, but they seem to be like from Celtic cultures, and there's some compelling reasons why people talked about them that we'll talk about later in the episode. But yeah, interesting stuff how they came around. They're kind of like our version of a mermaid, but then we also do have mermaids in Irish culture as well, so they're different.
Do you think there's any tie? Because you know the way they used to say the mermaid was people seeing manatees at sea, and they were just so fucking horny from being on a boat for fucking 3 months. They were like, oh, that thing looks deadly. Do you think like maybe this is a case where maybe someone got caught riding a seal and it was like, oh, that was actually a woman there a second ago, and it's a Selkie, and it's gone now. I've put it back in the water. Do you know what I mean? Something like that.
That's 100% what happened. I guarantee it. Your man was like, look, I'm fucking after a heap of gin. Or rum. I'm mad. You know I'm mad for the BBWs. And it's just... and some of these women have tashes. I'm just saying, look, I'm okay with it. Can we just say, I just thought it was a chick. I'm sorry. Hey, no judgment here, man. No judgment here, just...
Yeah. And the rest of Ireland are talking about changelings and all, so it was the perfect time to indiscriminately ride animals. You know, it's just like, just do it. Yeah, it's just like, just make up some folklore bullshit about it. It'll be grand.
Well, I'm telling you, I went down to Kilmore one time, really late. I drove down about 11 o'clock at night, and
you're going to have to clarify that there, big for your non-Irish listeners. It's a town called Kilmore. It wasn't that Rob was heading down to Kilmore.
I went down to Kilmore. That's like, I said in the podcast once, I just went seals. I just went to smoke a fag in an alley, and it's like, you shot a homosexual in an alleyway. You're like, oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I went down seal clubbing as I usually do most nights, and when I went down to Kilmore, this is a little fishing village here in Wexford,
I'm
right?
you up again. I just imagine it's a nightclub full of seals, and they're all out dancing their fucking flippers off, and you're in the middle of it going, this is the best fucking night of my life.
Rob is like fucking Cruella de Billington. He goes and just takes all the seal coats.
Which, again, that's a great point. We'll be getting into that again later as well, seal coats. But so I went down, and there was a seal on the runway or whatever for the boats, you know. What's the name of that slipway?
Yeah. Runway, another poor choice of words there. Now, he was on the catwalk.
It looked like it was, you know, waiting for the ride, to be quite honest with you.
It's now face down, ass up kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of looked like, well, it was on the slipway, and it was kind of in a sensual pose, and I reckon that it was waiting for one of the fishermen from down that area, to be honest with you. I think they had some type of arrangement, because it was very punctual. They showed up at 11 o'clock on the dot.
Yeah.
Get up, out of the water, sort of shuffled up. And then I was saying to my mate, the two of us were there, I said, let's go down and see what the crack is with this fella. And we went down, and he was kind of bothered by it. He told us to fuck off, so he said, all right, we'll leave the seal to it. Got back in the car and went. But I reckon Kilmore's on them places when you drive in. Do you ever know these Irish villages? When you drive in, you feel like all the eyes are on you. Like there's like a choke point in the village. Like when you
electric.
when you drive in, the neighbourhood watch is on you, like, and they're monitoring everything.
I will say for a seal though, in its credit, like if you're going to have sort of a tryst with a seal, it's probably one of the only animals that claps for you after you finish up, which is quite nice.
They're a majestic animal, Eamon. I know you're attracted to cows. How do you feel about seals?
I swam with seals off Kilmore as well, off the island.
Look at you saucy boy.
Yeah, swam around with them, but Unfortunately, I could neither catch their arses, Selkie or seal. But no, when we were out there, it was lovely. Because they're just kind of curious, and sure, I was a bit curious myself. They're just swimming around you. But we had the snorkel gear on, so you could see quite clearly. But it was really cool, like beautiful. We got really lucky with the temperature, the water on the day, and everything. But it was lovely just having these cool little animals like swimming around you and looking at you. And it was cubbing season as opposed to clubbing season.
Clubbing, so that's what I meant. Yeah, clubbing season.
But yeah, so obviously you had to be careful about going a bit too close to the pups. But they were so cute, like, because they're all like little sea dogs because they're hairy, you know, when they're really young. So yeah, seals. I'd rather ride a cow, but a seal. Maybe a close second. Maybe if I was in the water and I was in the mood.
Tell the truth, if we went down to Kilmore right now, there'd be a foxy young adolescent cub wandering around the place smoking fags with your accent. Tell the truth.
Probably.
You had a shot at
a
one,
red-haired adolescent going around the place. Here, do you know my dad? Because I don't. You know?
That other seal had shellac nails. What does it all mean?
What a time to be alive.
We just don't know. So it was definitely dressed to impress, you know what I mean? Now, we're on to something called therianthropy, lads. Now, he's wanting to know what this was about before, so we're going to blow your mind. Eamon, tell us all about fucking therianthropy.
I'll tell you one thing, I've never heard of it until just there.
So, well, there you go.
We've touched on this idea on many episodes before. Maybe I have. But here's a refresher, fair listeners. Therianthropy is the mythological ability of human beings to metamorphose into other animals by means of shape-shifting. What were the animorphs? That was those lads that were on the telly a while ago.
Yeah, they turned, you know, a lad turned into like a snake or a hyena or some shit, and on the book cover they started as did they start as a human and then work their way down to whatever?
Yeah, started as a human and then it turned into a tiger or something like that.
There's a fucking brilliant one someone made, Tom, I don't know if you've seen it, of Joe Rogan turning into a horse after taking over.
No, I want to see that.
It's absolutely fucking brilliant. I need to say.
Did you see the ones recently? It's like you know, Hellboy has to file down the horns on his head so he doesn't go like evil. Yeah. They have one of Joe Rogan, but he has antlers on his nipples because his nipples are so weird looking, and he has to
monkey
file
fingers,
down.
Man, I'm telling you. We're going to do an episode about Joe's nipples.
Joe's half elk. So it is possible that cave drawings found at Les Trois Frères in France depict ancient beliefs in the concept. The best known form of therianthropy is found in stories of our favourite, the werewolves, which are existing today and very popular in the Dogman stories. So that's kind of, I think that's like the current werewolf. So we don't pretend he's a man anymore. We're just saying like a full dog man. Where hyenas are present in the stories of several African and Eurasian cultures. Ancient Turkic legends from Asia talk of form-changing shamans known as Kurtadams, which translates to wolfman. Ancient Greeks wrote of kynothropy from that's not even letters. That's just fucking. That's like the PlayStation symbol. It just means dog anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I sneezed on the screen there, but sorry, I just.
It's like Kuwuv Kayon. I feel like if I say it, I'm gonna summon Cthulhu or something. So that this applies to mythological beings who are able to alternate between dog form and human form, or who possessed combined dog and human anatomical features. So there's your Egyptian lads, the sphinxes and all that.
Yeah, it's interesting because this was, I think, something that we talked about on prior episodes where I think we asked the question like, was there other headed animals in different cultures, or how did it work? And yeah, it seems like basically wherever you go, these animals turn into the local kind of shitbag animal, you know, like hyenas, for example. They're kind of like associated with, I don't know, negativity. You ever see that?
The hyenas?
No. You ever seen a female hyena's Mickey?
The female hyena.
Tell us more about the trans hyenas, please, lads.
A female hyena has a Mickey. It's like a proto Mickey that I think they have to dock with the male. Yeah, I think, and they also give birth through that Mickey as well. I think it's
Jesus.
They do Mickeys better than men themselves, you know.
And to be fair, I think it was something that we all suspected, that women would be better men than men are.
Yeah,
we've all suspected it.
Yeah, I used to do a bit all right that women, if women got, you know, dicks for the day, and men would fucking ruin it for women. They wouldn't even want it back. You know what I mean? They just women would be so careful with the situation, like whereas guys would just be going around fucking trying to plug themselves into all sorts. We'd make a bollocks of it, like.
It'd be going back, like, the best way I can describe it is that there was one night I was out drinking with a friend of mine, and we both got taco fries on the way home. You know, your mince, your taco sauce, the chips, a bit of bacon, and we both ate it very fast because we were quite drunk and hungry. Now, he unfortunately got sick back into the receptacle he had just eaten the taco fries out of, and it almost looked like you could give it back, but it wasn't quite right. And I think that's about what you're getting at.
Yeah. I think that sums it up perfectly. Actually, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
regurgitated vagina.
If men were doing it into women.
Yeah, feed your chicks with that, you bitch.
There's a new piece of merch there. We're going to get the lads to do.
Yeah, we'll
It's what was
that.
it? Someone, I heard a great line the other night. There's more hard dicks here than a silicone vagina convention.
No, if men had to go at being a woman, we'd be strumming ourselves more than Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. To be quite honest with you, I'd say.
Elbow fucking deep, we would, lads. It'd be disgusting.
Yeah, there'd be flames and all going up. So the term existed by at least 1901, this therianthropy, when it was applied to stories from China about humans turning into dogs, dogs becoming people, and sexual relations between humans and cavemen.
There we go. There we go. It always goes back to riding something.
Yeah, just anything. Everything. There's like, I wonder if there's any about like tree people or something like that. There must have been a few lads who, when it was sapping season, you know.
Listen, imagine being in the colds of Canada and out of nowhere. Like I used to do a bit about this. Not, people talked about, who was the first person to milk a cow, but who was the first person? Like, what's, see the sap coming out of a tree and go, this is what we'll do now with that.
Maple syrup.
We don't know what that is. Is that the shite or the fanny juice coming out of a tree? But a lad, for sure, some bloke in history sometime in the wilds of Canada looked around and went, nobody here. Drop trow. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Give it a go. It's the same way, the way like we sort of know what's poison and what's not now.
Yeah.
When it was basically from trial and error. And I imagine many's a man was felled by riding the wrong thing. And it's just trial and error. It's like, so the seals are all right. I wouldn't go near the sharks if I was you.
Yeah. They're sexy trees, man. There are sexy trees.
Would you like an old sequoia?
I've got a tree here. If I look at it in a certain light, I'm like, well, it's time to have a wank,
There's a bunch of willows around here, lads, and they're the most seductive looking bastards. And night or day, they're always kind of a bit coy, that kind of way. They're always kind of turning away from me, like going, "Uncle, why would you stop it?" They always have that look about them, like, "Oh, would you fucking cut it out?"
There's a tree that looks like a lad ploughing on in doggy style that's going around on the internet. I put it in the episode notes of this episode, and it's absolutely gas. If you seen it, you were like, the Catholic Church would have censored this tree if it was in Ireland. Like they would have put a carton around it or something, or some lad would have charged you $5 to go in and have a look at it.
I would have paid it. I'd pay it, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they were all having sex with dogs back in the 1900s. So they came up with all these terms. And anthropologist David Gordon White called Central Asia the vortex of synanthropy because races of dogmen were habitually placed there by the ancient writers. The were-dog, or synanthrope, is also known as in Timor. It is described as a human canine shapeshifter who is capable of transforming other people into animals, even against their will. Of course, European folklore features were-cats who can transform into panthers or domestic cats of an enlarged size. African legends describe people who turn into lions or leopards, or Asian were-cats are typically depicted as becoming tigers. So it definitely seems like the locality of the area is what affects this, right?
Yeah, it is. It is sounding that way. So I suppose, because in Ireland, any coast you'll find seals. So it stands to reason then that we'd be into the old Selkie people.
You wonder how it didn't go inland, that kind of way, like why seals? Granted, we were an island nation, but at the same time, like, I'm not hearing anything about, sexy man badgers or sexy woman badgers. Because I could be on board with that, I can tell you. Badgers have it going on.
Same. They're the same. Badgers are nice and elusive as well. When you see a badger, you really appreciate that. Motherfucker.
Badgers are like the Dodge Viper of the animal world. They have that lovely streak,
They
you
do.
know. Just
They'll fuck
Gone
your
in
car
60
up.
seconds. I swear to God, she.
They'll fuck your car
You
up.
just see Nick Cage sitting on the back of one, tearing down the road at fucking 150 miles an hour.
we are in, we are out, we are gone in 60 seconds. Because that's certainly, and it could even go the opposite way. If you got a hold of one, you'd be gone in 60 seconds. Again, getting back to the bestiality kind of tone here. So sorry, lads. Now
It's a new angle we're coming at here from Monster Fuzz. So,
I'm sorry. It's my it's my influence, lads. I think we both know that you were highbrow until I stood in. I'm basically that guy that shows up at a very nice, that uncle that didn't get invited to the family, very nice, maybe celebration of one of the kids' graduations, and I turn up and I've forgotten my trousers, and I'm just being drunk and belligerent and ruining it for everybody, and I've brought a gift that's wrapped in chipper paper. That's not really a gift at all, and I'm ruining this whole show for you. I'm sorry.
You have an Uncle Kevin as well?
You're like the David Bowie of Tipperary, Tom. You're invented yourself. You've got these.
The
you've got
David
the pit vipers.
Bowie of Tipperary is a sentence I never thought I'd hear.
Tom has reinvented himself to be the best of both worlds at the minute.
True.
He's got the pit vipers. He's got a bit of a mullet. He's got the excellent moustache.
Thank you.
And what I'm saying is, you're bringing the tip rural side of the comedy, and then you've got the best of the American with the pit vipers and the mullet. I mean, that's powerful play there that you're doing, I think.
It's titled Freedom. That look, anybody can get on board with it, but at the same time, not everybody can become a master of it. So, but I would encourage people to get in behind and just follow the real freedom movement of just letting the hair flow. You know what I mean?
I think you're setting trends, because honestly, I'm seeing way more mullets, and I'm going to
There
credit
are a
you
lot
for
of
that
mullets
now, to be
going
quite
on now,
honest.
yeah.
I had this said to me by Joe Rooney a couple of weeks back at a gig, and he was like, "My two kids now have mullets." And they're in art college. I'm like, no, I did this to be ironically unfashionable. This is my Kenny Powers moment, eastbound and down. And no, I didn't want this. And now all of a sudden I'm lumbered with being this icon of fashion, and I didn't want it, guys. But look, heavy weighs the crown, as they say.
This is it. You're fucking out.
The mullets.
Yeah, you're fucking out.
You're fucking out. And that is why I'm the one who could throw the ball faster than fuck. Like, everything he says is brilliant.
Lads.
I love you, but you've got clothes like a dickhead.
Yo, that's such a good line, baby. I
Saying
love
that
you,
to a
but
woman.
you got clothes like a dickhead.
Right, Tom. Is it a seal lady or is it a mermaid? I just have to know. It's really keeping me up at night, and I'm frustrated, and I've been asking this question for so long. Fill me in.
So the Scots language word Selkie is diminutive for Selch, which strictly means grey seal. The term Selkie, according to Alan Bruford, should be treated as a meaning any seal, or without the implication of transformation into human form. So W. Trail Denison insisted Selkie was the correct term to be applied to these shapeshifters, to be distinguished from the merfolk, and that Samuel Hibbard committed an error in referring to them as mermen or mermaids. However, when other Norse cultures are examined, Icelandic writers also refer to seal wives as merfolk. In Gaelic stories, specific terms for Selkies are rarely used. They're seldom differentiated from mermaids. There is a mention of seal maiden, however.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we were saying earlier about the differences through cultures. I think a lot of it gets lost in language with Irish. So you're it's kind of hard to know whether they meant mermaids a lot of the time. So what I did was I went looking for like stories that kind of had a bit more of a sort of a Selkie kind of flavour to them. Emo, take it away.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what's the Irish word for seal? Does anyone know?
Jesus, that's a great that's
Irish
because there's a like
I'm honest.
I when you drink in, there's a few bars around Glasgow that have real
Seala.
stop
Seala. Something
Right.
like that. S-E-F-A-L-A. Seala. Seala.
They have a lot of words in Scottish and Gaelic that we do too, and it's kind of like if you bought our words on Wish, they'd end up being Scottish Gaelic. You know what I mean? They're
The Scottish one like that.
Makes sense.
fuck 'em.
Sláinte. They say sláinte, don't they?
Sure, that's ripped for sure.
I think-
Absolutely stroked that from us, surely.
I think they say sláinte. And then you have the Welsh Gaelic as well, but I'm not really as familiar with that at all.
You see, you have Mermaid is Magdain Vara is Mermaid in Irish. But I was trying to like wheel one, Selche, ban Selche, I suppose.
There's some things in Irish like my girlfriend is in a Welsh because she's fluent in Irish, and she like there's sometimes
I was like, you're a bit old to be dating someone. like
Just
Gael,
gonna
so-
say more clarification needed.
and she was saying like there's some words I'll ask her and she's like, no, there's no translation for that at all. It's just
Okay, yeah.
I got accosted by a guy. I was wearing a T-shirt that got made for me by the good people at Hairy Baby. They're in Cork. They've
Nice.
T-shirts,
Shouts out.
and they've made some cool stuff for me in the past, just with stupid phrases I'll come up with. And your man go, I'll make you a T-shirt for that if I can sell some of them. I went, yeah, cool. And
Cool.
I said, can you do too cool for school in Irish?
Oh yeah.
And there is no word for cool. Like obviously, four is cold, but
Yeah, but
so
not for the same.
but he has a Gaelgore down in Gugan Barra, which is the Gaeltacht region of West Cork. And he says the modern terminology in Irish would be coolaha.
Right.
And so, but I had this written on a T-shirt with like those kind of Kanye style, an outline of those Kanye glasses with the lines, the
nice.
Venetian
Yeah,
blinds looking fucking glasses. And a guy in Galway fucking lost his shit. What? Now, in fairness, he looked like the sort of man that would definitely fuck a Selkie. That kind of way.
Oh, they do.
Hair
Yeah.
bursting out of his ears.
Where was this? Did you say?
Galway. So
Oh, they all look like
you know
that
what I mean.
Galway.
Like, so, he looked like he'd been knitted. This man, he just
Oh, yeah.
iron jumper just hanging out of his fucking nose, and he starts screaming at me about this. I mispronounce. How dare you? I was like, but dude, get on board. Could you just relax? I'm eating
There's
chips.
a big market in Irish words, Tom.
Yeah.
All the Irish, the fluent Irish people have their little their clothes with Irish text on them, and a lot of them will exclusively buy them. Are you familiar with Mancon, the Irish guy who does the books and stuff? He's very good.
He's brilliant. He was on the Two Johnnies podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's
brilliant,
very
yeah.
good. Yeah.
He's brilliant. I'd love to get him on as well to talk about some folklore. He's really good with all the Irish folklore and stuff like that. So he'd be a dream guest for us as well. He's a really cool dude. I follow him on Instagram.
Still here, guys. Still here. Just saying.
Well, we've had you already, Tom. You were achievement unlocked, when we got you. So this is a tale, lads, about a Selkie wife and a human lover.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been fucking teasing it. Well, we haven't even been teasing it. We've been diving straight into it. But
in. No kissing at all. Like.
No kissing. So a typical folktale is that of a man who steals a female Selkie skin, finds her naked on the seashore, and compels her to become his wife. But the wife will spend her time in captivity, longing for the sea, her true home, and will often be seen gazing longingly at the ocean. I'm starting to think my ma is a Selkie because she don't like me da. So
And does she like the ocean?
she loves
She
the
does
ocean,
like
yeah,
the
because we
ocean. She
down in
does.
Tremor, yeah. My ma might be a
there you
Selkie.
go.
I'll ask my
She
da.
might be.
I said, did you find ma and her skin gone, you old dirt bird? Anyway, so she may bear several children by her human husband, but once she discovers her skin, she will immediately return to the sea and abandon the children she loved. So that's not like my ma. Sometimes one of her children discovers or knows the whereabouts of the skin. That'd be a good story, a child trying to not let his ma find the skin so that she wouldn't leave him and go back to Tremor specifically.
Definitely hasn't happened, that story.
There's something there.
Wow.
Sometimes it is revealed she already had a first husband of her own kind.
I know.
Although in some children's story versions, the Selkie revisits her family on land once a year. In the typical folktale, she is never seen again by them. In one version, the Selkie wife was never seen again, at least in human form, by the family, but the children would witness a large seal approaching them and greet them plaintively. So that's almost like a little bit like Into the West, except that had a horse wife instead of a Selkie wife.
But I reckon if we're opening the door to Selkies here, I reckon there was horse people too. Like they're like the phrase "horse of a man." Well, that didn't just fall out of the sky.
Well, yeah, sure. I suppose even the centaur is
Yeah.
like a little bit, and And
Eamon's favourite rapper, Megan Thee
Megan
Stallions.
Three Stallions, yeah. She's all
Big
like,
massive
oh,
cock on her. Yeah, yeah,
I fuck
yeah.
all these people so hard. That's what all my rap's about.
Who do you reckon, though? Who do you reckon, lads? If we were to say someone was half horse, half man, who would you say? I'm
Oh,
kinda
do you remember
leaning
that
towards
fella?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa, yeah, I can see that. Remember that fella?
Horsey vibe.
Remember that fella? There was a meme going around with him for a while there. He was like this black guy with a huge Mickey sitting on
Barry
bed.
Wood, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think he's a horsey man, judging by the size
Shaq.
of that.
Was?
unit.
Shaq for sure was one of those
yeah,
horses.
yeah,
The
that's good.
Budweiser horses. Like Shaq.
Now, are we just talking about lads with big Mickeys now, or are we talking about people who we think might be
Who do you
horses?
think? Liam Neeson, another horse.
Oh, of
He's the
course.
goat horse.
Yeah,
Have
for
you ever
sure.
seen Liam Neeson's Mickey, Tom?
Monstrous. I caught a glimpse of it in the gym
Nice.
one time. He was honestly, it was I wanted to see it anyway. Truth be
Well,
told,
I can't believe
but-
we're getting this confirmed because we were going off JPEGs.
Oh no, yeah,
Yeah, no,
Tom knows.
it's 110%. It's there's more than them out there that you think that are carrying weapons of mass destruction that realistically, like you wouldn't think it. Yeah, Marty Morrissey.
Does it? Oh, well,
On
Marty's definitely
tripod.
packing heat.
Tripod.
Definitely packing
Yeah,
heat.
yeah, he does look like some sort of, he looks like the puppet out of Batman. Remember the ventriloquist had the puppet on the hand, Scarface.
Marty's
We actually-
party trick is to spin around on his Mickey like he's doing breakdancing.
yeah, the
He gets
beat
down on the
spin.
floor and spins around. Yeah. No, he uses his Mickey to prop himself up, and then he spins around on the ground like the dials of a clock, kind of, you know.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that. Look, there are a few out there that but
Yeah.
Neeson for sure. I've seen it firsthand, not with my hands. I literally just saw it.
But
It
if you
grazed,
were,
it grazed
yeah.
off my shoulder, and I can still feel. He actually dislodged my AC joint with it. It was that much of
Yeah.
like it looked like a small arm holding an apple.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I heard, Tom Dunn used to do that trick with the microphone where he'd kick it down and kick it back up.
yeah,
Mickey.
yeah.
That was his Mickey. That was his Mickey. Or chrome sprayed
was it?
Mickey, A lot of camera trickery.
Wow.
Right now, lads, we're talking about Mickeys and horsemen. It's now time to go to the male Selkies. So, male Selkies are described as being very handsome in their human form
confirm.
and having great seductive powers over human women. They typically seek those who are dissatisfied with their lives, such as married women waiting for their fishermen husbands. In one popular tattletale version of a certain Ursula of Orkney, a pseudonym, it was rumoured that when she wished to make contact with her male Selkie, she would shed 7 tears into the sea, and then he would show up. So, children born between man and seal folk may have webbed hands, as in the case of the Shetland mermaid, whose children had a sort of web between their fingers, or Ursula rumoured to have children sired by a male Selkie, such that the children had to have the webbing between their fingers and toes made of horny material clipped away intermittently. So yeah, bone fragments, that's interesting, isn't it? Some of their descendants actually did have these hereditary traits, according to Walter Trail Dennison, who was related to the family. So they do actually say that there are families in Scotland that still have these bony hands
would
and
his
webbed fingers.
would his name technically have been Horny Den?
Yeah, Horny Day,
right.
not to be confused with
Dirty
Horny
Den.
Head Jim.
Yeah, true.
Do you know, much like Eamon was saying, definitely it sprung out of some fella being caught riding a seal, for sure.
Yeah,
And spinning an out story. This for sure was inbreeding of the highest fucking order. And they went, yeah, sure, Nana would have rode a seal. And that's why we've all this. Nothing to do with Nana rode her brother. You know what I mean? Like, because there's nobody else in the Orkney. Have you been up around the Shetlands in the Orkney? Oh my lord.
Man. I'd say
It's
that's up in Scotland, is it, Orkney?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's t'other end of the world. You'll take what's on offer. I tell you one thing: if that sexy seal lying on her side with a bit of lippy on or whatever she had that night that you saw her, she would
shellac.
she would get it every 6 way.
She had a balayage and shellac as well.
Wow.
To be honest
That's
with
doing
you.
it for me.
Now, there's some superstitions, Tom, about the little seal here, or the Selkie. Would you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, so it was only during hard times that the people of the Scottish Isles would kill seals to make use of their skin and blubber, because it was thought that killing a seal would result in misfortune for the perpetrator.
Right.
Ernest Marwick recounts the tale of crofters who brought their sheep to graze upon a small group of homes within the Orkney Islands. During the summer, a man placed 7 sheep on the largest home, While on his way home from grazing sheep, the man killed a seal. And that night, all of the man's sheep disappeared. However, the other crofters who'd not killed a seal did not lose any of their sheep.
No.
Now, there's, I suppose the pessimist in me would go, yeah, the boys robbed his sheep. Do you know? Because he went home first. But at the same time, what was he doing? On the way, much like Rob likes to pop, on the way home. Some people would pop in for a bag of chips. Some people might, take out the golf clubs and maybe go to the driving range for half an hour. You'll take out a club of sorts and just maybe smash an eel over or seal over the head on the way home.
Seals and eels, whichever really. If I find a bucket,
Any sea life that
eels,
you can get your fucking hands on. Yeah.
If I find a bucket of eels, I'm jumping in like I'm making wine. I'm fucking them motherfuckers up. No joke, right? I'll say this about eels. One time, and it was horrible to watch, I seen a bunch of young lads that were fishing off the quay here in Wexford, and they caught an eel. And I'd never actually seen an eel out of the water before. And they were trying to kill it. I didn't realise how hard it is to kill a fucking eel. Man, this thing was, well, for one, this shit you could have sold on the dark web for 500 quid a pop, this tape, because they took the eel out, they cut its head off, but the eel was still alive. It was breathing and everything with its head cut off. And I was looking at these guys going, will you leave the fucking eel alone? But it survived that. It was still breathing with its head cut off.
Well, I mean, technically they are sentient Mickeys, aren't they? Well, hey, they're the Mickey, just a floating Mickey.
They are, and they're strange, man. Eels are fucking weird as well. There's another weird creature, bizarre looking yolks. Conger eels even more fucking bizarre. But yeah, we've seen a lot of that type of stuff here in Wexford. You know, I'm a great lover of crabs. And did you ever go crab fishing? And not the type in a nightclub.
No, I've caught that a few times. But crab fishing, I've never actually gone crab fishing. That's with the baskets,
Have you
isn't
not?
it? Yeah, no, never done it.
What the fuck?
You're
from Wexford and you've never crab fished?
Thank you for it.
Crab said it to me.
I've never been okay with crab fishing being called crab fishing, because
it's a strange name, isn't it?
You know, it's like saying I went cow fishing. Like you just went fucking crabbing.
You went you went crabbing, very true. Now that's a more sophisticated name for it there, Tom, that you've got now. I wouldn't be crab fishing. You go to the butcher, you ask him for an old bone, fuck the bone into the water, pull it out, you got crabs. Happy days.
Stop.
Right?
I mean,
simple.
Many's a man stuck his bone in it. Oh, no, I'm not. No.
There's a joke there. So basically this seems like, much like the tale of the fishermen's wives, kind of seems like some type of cautionary tale is where the folklore comes from, right? Where, you know, it's like, oh, if you're out at sea for too long, your missus is going to run off with a seal, man, you know, that kind of thing.
Be hard not to when you think about it. Say you're this fella's a big shot with he's enough of a field for 7 fucking sheep.
True.
There's not a lot knocking around there. There's no delis. Like, there's nothing.
No.
You see a big fat seal sitting on the side just flopping around there. You're like, that could feed us for a fucking year, and we'd have oil for our lamps and an old jacket for the missus, or maybe, just cover the sofa in it. It'd be hard to resist it back in the day when nobody's watching.
That's very true, yeah.
We hunted in Ireland. We hunted the great elk out of existence.
Yeah,
hunted everything out of existence. Man. That's why Ireland is so nice now.
Yeah. We hunted my people. Hence why our name is O'Mahony, derived from the name Anvachen, which is the bear. We hunted the poor bastard out of existence in Clare.
So that's where the name bear comes from.
Yeah,
that you go by bear. Yeah, okay, cool. That makes sense then. Yeah, like, that's deadly.
We had no PETA on our door here. It was just keep going till you can't see anymore.
Yeah.
Ireland is a really sort of bad case study for a lot of shit like that, because it was 90% forested, if not more, and now it's like 10%. And not to mention, like, that 10% that we have now is just shitty fucking Sitka fucking spruce that.
They have no business here at all, like, yeah.
Quailcha are like fucking, when you're playing like The Sims or like one of those theme park games and you're like drawing the scenery. Quailcha just do that with Sitka spruce, and then you go to them and you're like, lads, there's other types of trees, and they're like, oh fuck, are they? You joking me or what? They've been using Sitka spruce, all this thing. Literally every mountain that you go up in Ireland looks the same, and it's such a shame. I've only noticed it recently from hiking. Like, I've been going out fairly regular, and I'm like, oh, here's the Sleep Blooms, or here I am in Wicklow. It's literally monoculture of trees, Sitka spruce everywhere. It just all looks the same.
Yeah.
So shouts out to all those people. There's a lot of people in Ireland now doing they're trying to buy up acres and
Shout
reforest
out
property.
to the Lord of it's not Slane. Where is he? He's a young lord. I think he might be.
Right.
I think he might be in Wexford. I'm not sure. I need to look it up and send it on. You'll love reading about this guy.
Yeah.
He got left 10,000 acres or whatever, and they were
Right.
thinking, oh well, he's going to continue leasing the land as a landlord has done for 800 years. He went, fuck at that. He'd gone on a bit of a pilgrimage. The same guy definitely would have done ayahuasca. Wasn't mentioned in the article,
but he did.
He definitely did.
He had a Galway jumper on as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he's a bit of a rocker and stuff. But he went, nah, fuck this. He cut the farm in half just to sustain the planting of native Irish trees on the other half.
Love it.
You know what I mean? It was
Love it.
oaks and all the trees that are supposed to be there. Like,
Yeah, I love it, man. Let's go. It's really cool.
Have you seen that incentive of doing it in, I think it's Aberdeen, I want to say, but you can buy like a metre squared of land and they plant a tree and send you a plaque out to say you're lord of.
we did it for my grandfather
place.
just before for his 100th birthday, just before he passed away.
Lovely.
We made him
Right,
lord.
that's great.
But it being classic,
brilliant.
my old grandfather, he was like, oh, what bank am I going to cash that in? I was like, yeah. I appreciate it, but it was, and they planted a tree. It was just a cool thing to do on a
That's
marshland,
deadly,
and
yeah.
they planted a native tree to Scotland as well,
Well, I have you. So this is a cool story for our listeners, and Eamon as well doesn't know about it. So the missus, she's obsessed with like Irish history and everything, and I got her some Irish history books for Christmas, and she was just reading, and she goes, "This guy's called O'Mahony in this story," and she's reading through it, and she goes, "It's from Tipperary." I think that's what it is in the story, Tom, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I went, hang on there, I'll just text Tom about it. And I goes, Tom, is that O'Mahony anything to do with you? And he was like, yeah, that's my granddad. And that was the story about how your granny and granddad met, was it?
Yeah. Actually, it sounded like a real love story. I'm not sure. He was a good, like, he could polish a nice one, all right.
Whether it was romantic.
It was very romanticized where they stood under a tree, and it sounded like something
yeah.
from a 90s like teen. I mean,
Script writers were looking at that and going, yeah, there's a film in here somewhere.
like Jared Butler with a bad Irish accent written all over that. Yeah, but
it was a great story though, man.
He was unbelievable innovator. Like at 100 years of old, he was loving Google calendars, and stuff like that. He was loving that shit. Like he loved the idea of EV powered cars, even though he was a mechanical engineer. But he was like, it was mental. Like the jump that they made. That he made for a lot of his neighbours, like when he had a shop in a place called Ballylanders in Limerick, and people used to bring him out to install a light bulb. That kind of way. He was basically like a fucking wizard. There had been no innovation since the time people were going around claiming seals were turned into women, and then all of a sudden it was 1950 or whatever, and now people had power in their homes and shit like that. So this guy, he went off and studied mechanical and electrical engineering. It was just bizarre. He was going, like, people would come in going, I don't know what's after happening. Like he put up a wind turbine that was sent over from the mayor of Boston for this town because his people had come from there. They sent instructions and they literally just went, half of us can't read, and for starters, can you put this up? So he read it and went, oh, it makes perfect sense as a dynamo. Yeah, we need loads of batteries. You're going to have to build me a little fucking house. He put like 50 of these car batteries in there, charge that'll run power off. A week later, they went, yeah, everything's stopped and broken. He went over there. Yeah. They had left, because it was a lovely warm house because of the battery power. The village had left all their hens in there to shit all over the batteries. It's like, dude, you cannot.
When was this?
What
year?
This was in the 50s, like.
That's like your granddad was way ahead of the times, because that kind of stuff is kind of cutting edge now, where people are like wanting to get in turbines on their own property and have battery setups and everything, and people are thinking they're cutting edge doing that now.
You should have seen some of his notebooks, man. He went.
I'd say,
his old man was crafty. His old man was actually an American citizen. He'd gone to America and then moved back, but he had his landlord was Al Capone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh Lord.
We managed to find his till from a shop that he had a couple of shops over there, till, and it was this thing. It weighed like fucking 80 kilos. Like you just couldn't rob it. It was just all lead lined and stuff. Like it was cool. But he came back with great innovations. Going, man, this place is, because he, of course, when he was there, it was like bap, 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 and he comes back to Ireland. It's just wind blowing everywhere. Like
it's culture shock. That's
that's
what
mad,
the girlfriend is really fascinated about with Ireland too. Is just because like. within some people's lifetimes, and your granddad would have been the same. My granddad is 87 now, so he kind of had the same. Like, he remembers as a young kid, like the horses and carts taking away the dead, rather than, you know, there was obviously no cars, and I think his family were the first family to have a car in the whole area that he grew up in here in Wexford. And so, yeah, it must be weird just trying to get into their head and seeing this all progress, because it's you really see, and I'm sure there's people in rural America with the same story, rural Australia, England, all that. But yeah, it's such a crazy thing to imagine being a child like they were, or even being a teenager or a young adult, and sort of seeing the technology that's around now is just crazy. It must have been crazy to them guys.
Well,
like,
if you imagine all the generations that before them that they could actually tell stories about, nothing changed. You had four walls, a couple of bedrooms. You ate the same shit, you know, pretty much every second night. Yep. Nothing changed. You had a horse, you had a cart, and nothing. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this acceleration of innovation just came. What the fuck? We don't need a horse? What? You mean there's running water coming out of a pipe in the house? And now there's a little wizard is living inside a glass globe that's going to light my entire house. Like, he used to install radios for people. He used to have, he used to come out all loads of gear and everything. I think he had the first Hackney license in all of Munster.
Right.
Yeah, because they used to drive out ones to the shop, and they thought it was amazing. They'd fucking want to sit in every seat of the car going, and there's nothing pulling us. This is incredible. Do you know?
That's class.
Do you know how the book story came about? Do you know, where was he contacted by someone, or did he send it in somewhere?
No, some woman. I don't know. My aunt is very, like, she's a school principal, and she is very. I suppose she's in with every fucking thing that's going, and I'm guessing they'd put it around. You know, anybody know anybody real fucking old? She's like, well, yeah, my father, he's still rocking it, and he's still got all his teeth. He doesn't need glasses. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah.
But like, he defies everything we would learn today, like from, say, you know, you listen to what's his name, fucking Joe Rogan, going, well, you gotta take fucking krill oil.
Oh yeah.
That man never took so much as a fucking multivitamin. He ate 4 different meals throughout his entire life. Like, man. Never, like nothing. He never had to wear. He'd wear glasses the odd time for like small newspaper print, but all the rest of the time fine. Drove up until he was 96, and then just went, yeah, no, I'm starting to scratch the car off shit, and I'm gonna pack this in, you know. But like,
he was an anomaly.
Well, I don't know. There's like, sometimes I think
a lot of them old people are like that though.
When you put, well, his mother lived to like 90. I remember my great grand, she was 98 or something, and even his wife, my grandmother, her parents lived. I think one lived to 104 or something. You know, there were different breeds of
badass genetics. Like,
there were different breed of mountain people. There were mountain people. Like, they you didn't have time, nor you didn't know to get upset or sick by things. Do you know? You just went, oh yeah. And other people in their brain would go, I definitely have the flu. I have the flu. In their head, they're going, what? No, I just, something inside my head feels a little different than yesterday. So, but I still gotta go and fuck. Or if we don't, we all die of the hunger. So how's that? You know?
No, it's cool. It's cool, man. No, because I'm around my grandparents every day, like, and they are anomalies, though, because like they'll eat like 2 trifles a day and shit, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, they'll eat whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, grand. Like, they don't, nothing bothers them. My granny still has all of her teeth, and you know, if I ate her diet, my teeth would be falling out my head like pieces of chalk. You know, so it's crazy. But anyway, we'll get back to the Faroe Islands and some cheeky Selkie stories. So, one of the famous Selkie stories from the Faroe Islands is the legend of, and hopefully I won't butcher this, Coppaconan, literally meaning seal woman. So this is the seal woman story. The story tells of a young farmer from the village of Mikladulur, which sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings, who, after learning about the local legend that seals could come ashore and shed their skins once a year on the 13th night, goes to sea for himself. While laying in wait, the man watches as many seals swim to the shore, shedding their skin to reveal their human forms. The farmer takes the skin of a young Selkie woman, who, unable to return to the water without her skin, is forced to follow the young man back to his farm and become his wife. The two stay together for many years, even producing several children. The man locks the Selkie woman's skin in a chest, keeping the key to the lock on his persons at all times, so the wife may never gain access. Eamon, have you ever, I know you love the beach and everything, have you ever sort of hid and watched women and robbed their clothes when they went into the water or anything sinister like that?
You'd have to. Because, what? And I mean, why would you just stop at women?
All right, men as well.
Men,
okay.
And it's sure anyone, if anyone leaves a dog lead around, take that as well.
That's gone.
That's it, man. I steal the marram out at the sand dunes. Like, I'd have the crack out there.
Well, I'm glad I asked now, Emma. So there you go, folks. However, one day this cheeky fella forgets his key and leaves it at home. He comes back to his farm to find that his Selkie wife has taken her skin and returned to the ocean. Later, when the farmer is out on a hunt, he kills the Selkie woman's Selkie husband and two Selkie hunts. This was me going out clubbing.
Yeah. Club C.
Enraged, the Selkie woman promises vengeance for her lost kin. She exclaims that some shall be drowned, some shall fall from cliffs and slopes, and this shall continue until so many men have been lost that they will be able to link arms around the whole island of Calsoy. Deaths that occur on the island are thought to be due to the Selkie woman's curse. And by the way, I can't read Scottish stories without thinking of Atletico Mints. If any of our listeners haven't listened to the Scottish stories that Bob Mortimer does on Atletico Mints, they're absolutely hilarious. I can't even take these seriously because I'm just thinking of him reading in a Scottish accent and I'm absolutely creased. But Peter Kagan and the Wind by Gordon Bach tells of a fisherman Kagan who married a seal woman. Against his wife's wishes, he set sail dangerously later in the year and was trapped battling a terrible storm, unable to return home. His wife shifted to her seal form and saved him, even though this meant she could never return to her human body and hence her happy home. Singer-songwriter Russell Christian immortalised the tale of the Faroe Isles Selkie in the song Capricorn. And here's the statue, lads. A very beautiful statue.
Is stacked.
That is what they would say in South Tipperary terms, some chassis on her.
Oh, chassis. Very good.
That is a noble looking woman.
It's a lot better than the Cristiano Ronaldo statue. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, big long head. Or they did the one for Terry Wogan down in Limerick. Not a great representation.
I haven't seen that.
Not good. Not good. No.
Wouldn't you love to just put the Phil Lynott statue beside her? They'd look great together.
Yeah, they would look
I can't believe that, Eamon, you've gone this long, and even when it was put to us about who'd be a man Selkie, that you didn't burst into Kiss by a Rose. I cannot believe
that. I actually, to be fair, I can't believe that I didn't do that either. now that you brought it up,
I mean, and by all accounts, lads, he's ahead like a shot, a shot mattress. But
it's from kissing too many roses, man.
That's it.
But he's extremely streamlined, like a seal. Like there's not a hint of hair on him. I'd say.
He'd slip through the sheets there. To be unbelievable. But by all accounts, he could break a man's arm with what's hanging under him.
I'd imagine.
But Heidi Klum, they were going, "What are you doing with Seal? He's a fine singer and all, but there's loads of fine singers." And it was kind of, she gave this look like. It's a Pringle tube, lads. It's basically a Pringle tube is what that man is walking around with. So
it's a tube of Dunlop tennis balls. I'm telling you now, his yoke is serious.
There's weight to it. Like it would hurt you if it hit you. Yeah,
it's like those fucking those wind sounds, the big huge logs, and you turn them upside down, you just hear the. That's like you just turn him in direction, and his Mickey just makes ambient noises.
This statue could not be put anywhere near civilization in Ireland. There'd be lads all over. Sure. Could you imagine
remember
that?
Molly
on the
Malone.
Keys in Dublin? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Aren't Molly Malone's aren't her boobs worn away or something?
Because people always touch them.
People are grabbing them. Yeah. So, Eamon, we're off to Ireland for our home, the great land of Ireland, for some Irish folklore. Why don't you fill us in?
Ole. Great stuff. Conor McGregor. The mermaid in Irish folklore, sometimes called Merrow in Hiberno English, the ruined the language, has been regarded as a seal woman in some instances. In a certain collection of lore in County Kerry, there is an onomastic tale in Tralee which claimed the Lee family was descended from a man who took a mordioch, or a mermaid, for a wife. She later escaped and joined her seal husband, suggesting she was of the seal folk kind. So there's a trend here. Isn't it funny, though, that this stuff is like, I suppose they're both Celtic, and you would have had Scottish and Irish people hanging out together, so maybe that's how it's spreading, but they're certainly very similar stories.
Indeed.
There is also the tradition that the Keneally clan of Connemara was descended from seals, as it was taboo for them to kill the animals lest it bring ill luck. And since Keneally became a moniker of the animal, many changed their surname to Connolly. It is also mentioned in this connection that there is a Roan-Inish or Seal Island off Donegal outside Guinbarra Bay.
So, do you reckon then, Sean, almost Connolly, I was going to say Sean Connolly, but it's Sean Connery. Do you reckon he had something to do with seals, though? He was a lad that liked clubbing.
He wouldn't think twice about giving one a shot across the jaw either. You know what I mean? If it spoke up in any way to him, he'd be like, "Get back in the fucking room."
Yeah.
You know, they'd be just, "I've kept your skin this long." You know, and of course he's immortal too, the bastard. So he's gonna live he's gonna live forever. I love how all of these tales, whether she's been stolen or not, they all have a dalliance. Like, she didn't, like, all these ones didn't have to be riding fellas and giving him 7 sons, or 7 children. They all have a dalliance, and then they all pop back on. Like, what's the story they go back to her fella in the water with? Like,
yeah,
do you know?
I think, is this just more of a tale about people realising that, trying to explain away adultery? So she's only an old fucking Selkie. You know, but she's off down fucking the harbour, the next harbour over.
And you know what? If it was going to be anywhere, it was always going to be in Kerry, wasn't it? Kerry or somewhere in Galway. It was always going to be somewhere like that.
There's certain coast people, especially out to the west, because like the Wexfords, Waterford, sort of Dublin. Well, Dublin, you could say they've got a sense of them, but there's a certain way people are on the coasts in the west. And it's not like people in the rest of Ireland, I would go as far as to say.
Unique. 110%.
But they're like eat their young, like kind of like they're lovely, but also like certain mountain people would be the same. Isn't that what they say? Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the navy that would have built London came out of Connemara and these places, and they would genuinely believe that they were. I mean, even on QI, it was stated that they were actually of almost a different genetic makeup. That they'd start with a big feed at 5 o'clock in the morning and would not stop till 8 o'clock that night, and would work like no men could stay at the pace these guys could stay at. Like when it came to physical work, and like
it was almost like a branch of the evolution tree that like they didn't know they were Homo erectus or Homo or like Neanderthal. They were just one of them lads that slipped through.
And you can tell them, you can spot them from a mile away because it could be even frosty out, but they won't have a jacket on, and their shirt will be open down to middle below the nipple line. You know, that
like no need
hairy
for
chest.
shirts.
No.
I think that's where some of that fucking like kind of like the old racist cartoons the English used to do about the Irish back in the. I think that's where a lot of that came from, because those lads used to literally just work, and like even my granddad tells stories, like, because he lived in England quite a long time, of like a lot of the Irish that would have come from those places that weren't very well educated, and they just work hard. They'd go to they'd literally drink themselves to sleep because they worked so hard, and then they'd wake up and they'd share a pan, they'd fry a few sausages, and then they'd work for the rest of the day, and that was it. And then the English were probably going like, "Oh, silly peasants! Why aren't they wearing coats?"
The old man went over.
Tea breaks.
Was over there years ago and worked like 5 days with these guys when he landed there first.
Yeah,
and he's just like literally there'd be a cafe would open at 5 a.m. for these guys, and it'd be a big fucking like pork chop, load of spuds, and just mill the whole lot, and then not stop literally till 8 o'clock, and then straight to the pub. And he said 5 days, and the old man went over to go welding. He was like, "Well, fuck, and this noise, what?" But all of them carried a knife. It's a thing. They all carried a knife. They believed they had like 1800s mentality. Like if I have to get into a scrap, I'm going to kill the guy. Fuck him.
Yeah.
And but you couldn't beat these guys. They were just there's no UFC fighter on the planet could beat these fellas. They were just made of different, like you said, they are of a different genetic makeup, and they're most likely you know, the missing link, where that people were, they talk about Darwin needed to find that missing link. These boys might have been it.
Could have been them.
Could have been
like,
seal power too. I mean, you wouldn't fight a seal. A bad-minded seal would fuck you up.
I'd kill you.
They're like reverse royalty. Do you know, they always gone about the royal blood and all, and how they're all inbred. Like, those lads are probably inbred in the reverse way, so they're like, it's not selective breeding, it's like crazy breeding. So them lads are just like literally chimpanzee strength.
Anomalous breeding.
Yeah, like
the British, you know, the royals are all losing their chin, you know, because the jawlines are getting weaker. These lads, like, were, you know, you could sit a fucking a cup of tea up in their chin. It was just sticking out that fucking far.
Desperate,
it's funny how that happens though. It's because like you see it though with even nowadays it happens where it's usually the labourers that emigrate, and so a lot of the lads that labour hard work on their bodies and they want to drink and let the hair down when they're done labouring, because I mean fuck me, like say a lot of the Irish that go to say Australia, they're labouring in the fucking sun all day, and then they're like, I want to let the hair down for the weekend. So you get a bit of a reputation in the different countries, but then that's may not be the case. Like I'd say that happened a lot in England, where all the Irish that went over were basically labourers, you know, and they were probably guys that were worked so hard and just drank, so they were probably like, oh, the Irish only just drink and that's all they do really, and fight, you know.
Well, I'm gonna get you vexed with something here. A mate of mine, he's an engineer over in London, and there's still a phrase that pops up in his office every so often. If you say you were describing how you were earlier that day, and you were just trying to describe that you got really mad for a second, it would seem to be deemed acceptable to say, yeah, I threw a right paddy.
Jesus Christ, really?
And Kieran is such a nice fella. He kind of went, I think, I've actually have a doctorate and degree in civil engineering. Can we nip that in the bud while I'm around?
Thanks,
you know.
guys.
No, me and some people don't even realise. Like, my granddad said this to me. He was like, "Oh, I never experienced racism when I lived in England." He lived there for about 30 or 40 years, and he was telling me one story. He was a fireman. He worked in the fire brigade. And he goes, oh yeah, my nickname in the fire brigade was Paddy. And I go, so you don't think that was your name? They just called him Paddy, like they didn't call him his name. So I'm like, all right, okay, do you not think that was a bit of an eye raiser at all? No, that was just normal for you, was it? Because if someone came to me and said, no, your name is this, your name is Paddy, or imagine doing that to say a black guy, you know, what the obvious derogatory terms or whatever. Eamon, don't mention it, you don't have
Easy.
to. You know, imagine the fucking outrage with that, like. And it's the same, we've mentioned on this podcast before, paddy wagon is obviously because the Irish rose in the back of the vans. Yeah. So it's
there's no smoke without fire, boys.
But the only thing that undermines our derogatory term that people use, you know, paddy, it is actually a fairly common name here. Do you know?
That's it. But that's it. That's where it comes from, though.
It's the only thing that undermines it. Like, you know.
Yeah. I'd say it probably came from like when those guys came over on the boats. The English were like, "What's your name?" And most of them said Paddy. So they're silly Paddies. They're all called Paddy.
Well, they will do that. I mean, you know, on a lesser extent, heaven forbid you go over there with. And I look, we've kind of done our son an injustice in a way because he's called Fionn. And any of my friends who grew up without Irish in their head, i.e. my friends from the north of Ireland, they see his name and they go, "Oh, it's Fionn." I said, "No, it's Fionn," and they can't twist it in their brain. You're like, "No, the U sound, give the U sound," and just go. No, I mean, imagine going to the UK and being called Tig.
Yeah.
Even O'Mahony, they can't say O'Mahony. That's why Dave Allen, the famous comedian, his name was Tynan O'Mahony, his surname. But he took his mother's maiden name because he was doing so many clubs. He was, a groundbreaking comedian at the time, but he was doing so many clubs and they can't pronounce O'Mahony. They can't get the vowels in the middle. They can't get it all out. So I've been brought on to Mahogany, and the amazing thing was I was in Shoreditch, which is a really woke area in London, and this guy he'd asked me before, he goes, "Am I saying it right, mate?" And the same guy was of Asian descent, and he had this fucking fucker of a name. Like there was like 19 syllables in it. And he goes on, and he totally forgot what I told him, and he's like, "I'm fucking this up," and I said, "Yeah," from the back of the room. "Yeah, you're making some cunt of this." And I went up and I just tore him a new one, and I got, being able to say his name at the time, like, but it was, it seemed acceptable. But what was funny though was because they were quite a woke room, I got to feel what it was like to say be black comic in a white room in
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
In America.
Yeah.
Because everybody was kowtowing to my. I mean, I could have done the shittest material ever, and they were like giving me rounds of applause. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of and we have a lot of UK listeners too, and they just actually just don't really realise
Not
it.
at all. They're not taught it.
And as well, like, we're so well integrated with the British, whether we want to admit it or not. At times, I think some people would not want to, but we're absolutely
true, yeah.
integrated with them, like culturally influenced and otherwise, and. Yeah, I think a lot of them just are ignorant of the fact. So I think when it comes up on a podcast, it's worthwhile to talk about. Because I think otherwise, sure, if you don't know about it, sure, what are you supposed to do? But I think it's a good. I myself, like, my dad is English, so I try to try to bring the best of both worlds, I suppose, when we talk about that stuff. But it's fun. It's good to bring up, and it's good to chat about, because it still happens. And I think with the Irish people, are just like, sure, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
but there's a lot there. There is a lot there, you know.
We do have a whatever. And do you
know
know
what?
what?
Like, I'm going to get on Twitter and piss them on about it or anything, but you know what I mean? Like, you bring it up and you make people aware of it.
It breaks up the Mickey talk, if nothing else.
It does.
Well, this is it, yeah.
This is a roller coaster.
Sociological talk to Mickey talk to fucking talk of seal women going off riding every day. I don't know why the fuck we are anymore.
Yeah, we're all over the place. Eamon, right?
Yes.
Let's go to some real life sightings here. Now, so I said I'd mix it up when I was doing the notes for this one, because, you know, Selkies is more or less a folkloric creature rather than an actual cryptid as such. So it is a bit of a folklore fuzz here. Yeah. However, much like most folklore, there are actually real life tales of these Selkies. So there was a man named John Brand that reported a few in the 1700s.
Okay. He was a fisherman, was he? Or was he like an erudite kind of a gentrified Englishman? Or
he was a man about town, this fella.
Okay.
Yeah.
About 5 years hence, a boat at the fishing drew lines, and one of them, as the fishers thought, having some great fish upon it, was with greater difficulty than the rest raised from the ground. But when raised it came more easily to the surface of the water, upon which a creature like a woman presented itself at the side of the boat. It had the face, the arms, and the breasts, shoulders, etc., of a woman, and long hair hanging down the back, but the nether part from below the breasts was beneath the water, so that they could not understand the shape thereof. So I actually, as I'm reading it, he sounds like he might have a more kind of I don't think his accent would be like that.
Yeah,
for some reason, all I heard when you were with long hair hanging down her back, none on her head, just all on her back.
It's all on her back. Just straight to this one.
Big woolly back on the bitch.
Right, we'll go something a bit more gentrified. The two fishers who were in the boat being surprised at this strange sight, one of them unadvisedly drew a knife and thrust it into her breast, whereupon she cried, and they judged, alas, and the hook giving way she fell backwards and was no more seen. The hook, being big, went in at her chin and out at the upper lip. Not unlike fucking snaring a fish. The man who thrust the knife into her is now dead, and, as was observed, never prospered after this, but was still haunted by an evil spirit in the appearance of an old man, who, as he thought, used to say to him, "Will ye do such a thing who killed the woman?" The other man, then in the boat, is yet alive in the Isle of Burra. Hence are the accounts given of those sea monsters, the mere men and the mere maids, which have not only seen but been apprehended and kept for some time. Ride me, Khaleesi.
So that sounds like a bit of a mermaid, possibly less of a Selkie, maybe.
That seems like your traditional kind of mermaid, doesn't it? Geez, they did her wrong with the old fish hook there, up through the breast and in through the. Didn't like that.
Jeez, he couldn't have thrown a hand out. He saw that she'd fucking hands. He couldn't throw the hand out and say, "Here, come on in for a second. We'll give a look at you."
We'll give a look at you.
they're the worst fucking sea rescue I've ever heard of. Like, just pull up alongside her there and just use a hook like she's a bale of hay to hook her on board.
This comes up all the time, Tom. Like when we do like sightings of any type of creature, it's almost always like, oh yeah, we shot it, or, you know.
Yeah.
As soon as like we seen this thing that looked really cool, yeah, we put a bullet in it to find out what kind of noise it made.
It's like, did you not ask any questions? And they're like, oh no, did you ask any questions, Mick? I didn't. No questions were asked. Yeah, it's
yeah. So we've got something from 1882. Carl Blind wrote on the subject of sea creatures. Tom, do you want to fill us in on what he was saying, Dr. Carl Blind?
I'm guessing if he's in Shetland, would he possibly be a Scottish doctor of sorts?
He would be, I'd imagine, yes.
All right, so we're going to try and keep it some way soft. In Shetland and elsewhere in the north, there's sometimes animal-shaped creatures of this myth, but who, in reality, are human in a higher sense, are all Finns.
Oh, Lord.
Their transfiguration into seals seems to be more of the kind of deception they practice. For the males are described as most daring boatmen with powerful sweep of the oar who chase foreign vessels on the sea. At the same time, they are held to be deeply versed in magical spells and in the healing art, as well as soothsaying. By means of a skin, which these possess, the men and women among them are able to change themselves into seals. But on shore, after having taken off their wrappage, they are and behave like real humans. Anyone who gets hold of the protecting garment has the fin and its power. In its power, only by means of the skin can they go back into the water. Many a Finn woman was got into the power of the Shetlander and born children for him. But if a Finn woman succeeded in reobtaining her sea skin or seal skin, she escaped across the water. Among the older generation in the Northern Isles, persons are still sometimes heard of who boast of hailing from the Finns, and they attribute themselves a peculiar luckiness on account of their high descent.
That is a great Scottish accent there, Tom. Yeah. I can't nail Scottish at all. It's a very difficult one.
It's a tricky one, yeah. That you did a lovely soft version. If I always go in too hard, but you had a lovely, soft version, like Robert Carlyle doing an interview in America.
Yeah, it's one where genuine Scottish people get really angry at, but they do exist. Like a very good. The man who produced that play I did down in Wexford, that one-man play, he's very, very well-spoken man. He is from Glasgow, but there's a part of Glasgow that kind of thinks it's Edinburgh, if you know what I mean. It's very, very posh.
Oh, gentrified Glasgow.
It is, yeah. So they don't say things like they would say I'm from Glasgow, whereas your average Glaswegian would say I fae Glasgow.
Oh yeah. The Irvine Welsh kind of vernacular.
Yeah. Right. So we're going to figure it out, lads. The burning question, you're listening to this podcast and you're going, I've learned about bestiality. I've learned about monoculture trees and the Schliebloom Mountains.
Dendrophilia, which is when a man has sex with a tree.
We've learned about dendrophilia, sexy trees. We've learned about Tom O'Mahony's family. Now we're going to learn where Selkies come from. We don't know definitely. However, there are some compelling theories on where these stories originated, assuming they aren't real, of course. Winky face that I put down there. Finnish/Sami explorers.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I never would have gotten it.
No. So Finnish and Sami explorers, lads, this is it. I've got it wrapped up. This is where Selkies came from.
Excellent.
So Scotland in particular would have come into contact with Finnish explorers on an often basis. One pretty cool theory on how Selkie legend started is that the Inuit Finns would have worn animal skins on their travels. During extended trips at sea, these would become saturated and they would have to come ashore to dry them. Horny Scottish lads hiding behind rocks, much like Eamon, would have seen these beautiful Finnish people. And compared to, no offence, Scotland, we've got a lot of listeners in Scotland, but I've been to Scandinavia. You know,
you'll find no argument from those people.
No,
you'll find no argument there.
Yous would have been hiding behind the rock wanking as well, like so.
I wouldn't have hid behind the rock. I would have stood
just sitting up on the rock, proud as punch.
And he is interested. He has your first blonde there.
And apparently the Sami tribe of people, they were I mean they're Santa's people, aren't they? Like, but they by all accounts, while they came across koi and whatnot, they were dirt birds. Inside the old fucking teepee, they were fit.
Nothing else to do, man. Nothing else to do.
Oh, like fucking like into S&M shit, like back in the
really?
day. Yeah. They took it to another level. They were like, there's nothing but whiteness up here. We have nothing to be doing. Apparently, filth.
I'm raw.
Okay.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Spit
heard
on
her
Miss
first.
Fenn. Yeah, lovely.
So, Finnish people get in their nip with only animal skins beside them and become intrigued. So it's also possible that different Scottish clans weren't using, say, seal skins, but sheep or some shite. So what I'm saying here is, you know, so say you're a Scottish villager, they would probably have used maybe, you know, sheepskin or something for fur a lot of the time, or for clothing. A lot of the time the Celts never actually bothered wearing clothes either, and they were kind of known for that.
Yeah, they used to go into battle with the Mickeys hanging out, and they'd have like
With
just
the Mickeys hanging out.
That's
obviously
sets a
not
tone.
paint, but they'd have like clay and stuff on them, so they'd all look like ghosts, which was more terrifying to the people
Can you
battling.
imagine seeing a whole rake of fucking langurs just running at you, just flapping all over the place? You're like,
And
here.
probably out of their mind on magic mushrooms as well, just full.
But that's what they reckon the
bastards.
berserkers were.
That's
were,
right, yeah,
isn't
that's
it? Like
right,
they were
yeah,
just
yeah.
fucking absolutely out of their bin, running cock, probably rock hard as well, not even flapping, running at you with a raging horn.
Here's one for you, Tom. You mightn't know because we sort of specialise in the cryptid stuff. But do you know, in an awful lot of sightings of Bigfoot, there's a huge amount of people who reportedly see his massive Bigfoot erection when they see him.
Big mad Mickey.
He has a
I'd
big
wanna see
Mickey
that
and
now.
he urinates while erect. Which, to be fair, I remember trying to do that when I was a younger man, coming to terms with my body, and I would try to, you know, you're experimenting with the erections. You didn't understand them.
disaster.
You try to do wheeze then, so you're running towards the bowl as the arc is
What
getting
were you
shorter.
doing in your bathroom?
I was
And
trying
what
to figure
time-
out how it worked. Like,
What time of the year would they normally see him with a big raging pissy horn on it? Because I'm just asking because it could be the rut. I've seen a few
yeah,
stags
that makes sense.
are so mad with the horn,
Pissing everywhere.
they're pissing up into their own mouth. They're like,
Oh,
yeah.
dirty bastards.
Yeah.
I saw a stag piss up into his own mouth. Now I blew a hole in him that you could put your fucking fist through shortly after that.
Sorting them out for his fucking mess.
It's just scandalous. You can't be going around pissing into your own mouth. So I
it's a
figured,
terrible
I
idea.
had to put him down. He was clearly demented.
no,
at
I
that
had to
stage.
eat him as well and all the rest of it. But you know, it was only right.
Yeah, I'd say you're right about the rut though, because they do say he gets all aggressive. I think he might get He might get
He's going around
erection.
fucking trees. That's what he's doing.
Oh, he's definitely dendrophiliac Bigfoot for sure.
So yeah, so I mean, the Scottish guys. So put yourselves in their perspective. You're in this village. You're going around with maybe your Mickey hanging out, or you've got no sheepskin on your back or something, and you're combing the beach. Maybe you're getting some shellfish or something to eat, and next thing you see these guys, and you stumble across them, and all their animal skins are all over the floor. And they're just standing next to him. You're like, what the fuck are these lads at? And I suppose with this, you could kind of see how
definitely.
you could.
Oh,
you
yeah.
or how the wires got crossed at least as well, because you might have guys coming back to camp and saying, well, I seen them with the skin beside them, I don't know. Or maybe people just mixed up the terminologies over the years when they were handing down the stories. And
Or they knew, but they made a folklore of it. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Like
yeah.
they understood, but they made like a metaphor.
I would say the overall story was told incorrectly once, and then the
And it
next
went
fella
on, yeah.
fucking sorted. Because what I say was, one of these old savages probably nipped one of these women, dragged her back to his place. She fucking made a break for it.
yeah,
It could have headed down south, could have fucking
Yeah.
just jumped on a boat and sailed away. And his only thing was to go, sure, look at lads. Sure, she was mad to go back. She was a seal woman. You never mentioned anything
right.
about her being a
Yeah.
seal. Did
Yeah,
I not?
yeah.
No, I'll show you her skin there. I haven't. Oh, 'tis fucking gone as well.
Yeah.
Just
That
fucking
makes sense.
Sure, lads. And then the next fella that heard that went, fuck, the next woman that runs away on me. I'd say she was, because you never want to admit that she broke up with you. You know what I mean? You never want to admit that. You
could
just
also
go,
have
look.
been, yeah.
She was genetically programmed, lads, to run back to the sea. That's all I'm saying. And I count my blessings for the time I had her with me. You know.
Also, we were at the time back then where they could have actually been trading women. I mean, a lot of people that came over from Scandinavia were slavers, so it's possible that maybe they exchanged and arranged marriages between clans when they were setting up trade routes. And yeah, maybe these women, obviously they were married against their will, did escape, and that was part of it, you know, that they got out and they got back to the sea. So yeah, there's a lot of theories. Eamon, deformities. There's a little bit here on deformities.
Tell us of yours, Eamon.
Get into it.
Before the advent of modern medicine, many physiological conditions were untreatable. So when children were born with abnormalities, it was common to blame the fairies. The Macodrum clan of the Outer Hebrides became known as the Macodrums of the Seals, as they claimed to be descended from a union between a fisherman and a Selkie. This was an explanation for their syndactyly.
Syndactyl, I think.
Syndactyl.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, just that Y at the end throws you.
Yeah,
but it's effectively a hereditary growth of skin between the fingers that made their hands resemble flippers.
Lord.
So not as far as deformities go, not the worst.
Well, these lads, the Macodrums were kind of bigging it up, I'd say. You know, they were kind of going,
yeah.
Is it a bit like your man Giantsbane from Game of Thrones, where he claimed he was half bear and he loved fucking bears and stuff? Like,
and I'd say it was quite a thing back then to say that you were like you were some part of an animal. Like, I think we've covered that on the podcast before, where, you know, it wouldn't be uncommon to say they were part wolf or part lion, or you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of used in a good way. And I suppose, when you look at a lot of clan sigils and stuff like that, they would have different animals on them. So yeah, it's probably part of the parcel. Another way to look at the Selkie perhaps is that they may have simply just been a woman who didn't fit in with those around, and it could have been just used in a pejorative way. Like, maybe this was, you know, she was like the emo of the village. The girls didn't really like her. Maybe the men didn't, and they kind of sort of said, "Oh, she's a Selkie. She's not one of us. She's sort of from a different area," you know. So
it's similar to like how you could have said someone was a witch or something like that, albeit with maybe less fatal consequences. But yeah, no, that makes sense, and I'd say that probably has been done, because that's what clans like to do when they do have a misfit, to, you know, make them the other and force them out. Yeah. Tom, have you ever seen The Lighthouse?
The movie The Lighthouse?
Yeah.
It's like, if I think I saw that drunk and I didn't understand what was happening at all.
Yeah. Well, I seen it sober and I didn't understand what was happening.
Well, it's dark as fuck, ironically, for a thing called The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Who was in it again? Because it was
William Dafoe.
Yes.
And your man, that's the new Batman, and was in Twilight.
Demon, I was, and not a fucking notion. I was
bizarre.
I can remember what crisps I was eating.
That was it.
And other than that, I'm like, I have no fucking clue.
You might be for the better being like that. You know, it's not one that I would. It's probably one of the most monsterful films there are, but it's handled in quite a weird way. It's basically about a mermaid and them getting horny over a mermaid, essentially, is the whole plot of the film, really.
That sounds.
I watched Tusk. I watched Tusk.
Tusk is fucking bananas.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't seen Tusk.
It is.
Is it good?
It's another day I'll tell you, the company I was watching it with was fucking really disturbing. You know, But
it's bananas when you think that the guy who directed Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back made that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's
also Anakin Skywalker's in it.
Oh, okay.
as a big fat lad, and he is a fat lad in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just been munching on all that fucking Star Wars money.
Is it the original Anakin, like the child Anakin from Episode 1?
Yeah,
because he sort of has distanced himself from the whole Star Wars thing. He like hates it and stuff, and like he shows up to like conventions and he's like, "Oh, I hate Star Wars." It's like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Nah, that's where they get their money, though. We met like fucking honky tonk man, and he was telling us about breaking guitars over Kane's head and all from wrestling.
Yeah,
You know?
but it's like, you know,
I know what you mean,
either
yeah.
you distance yourself
Get
from
in
it
or
you
get
fucking
out.
don't. Yeah. Come on, like, I mean, no one wants to hear you showing up at a fucking thing going, I hate everything to do with this, I'm off, you know?
He had it too good for too long. So that's
Was
what he
it,
had.
was
He
it
had
the
it too...
Star Wars kid or the Sixth Sense kid, or are they the same kid?
Sixth Sense kid is different.
I think the Sixth Sense kid was the one in Husk, but
Was
I could be
Okay.
wrong now. I
Oh,
could
right,
be wrong.
right.
No, just my
Same
own
difference.
head is getting confused. I'm like,
What's the name of the film? Husk?
No, Tusk.
Tusk, sorry,
Tusk.
yeah. Tusk, not
It's
Husk.
it's super. It's like, have you seen the Human Centipede?
I haven't actually, would you believe that?
Look, I can't believe somebody,
I know.
one of the Monster Fuzz boys, hasn't seen it.
Yeah,
I know, but do you know why I haven't seen it? It's kind of like Breaking Bad, where everyone had seen it and they were like, you have to see it. And I was like, look, you know, everyone's talking about it. I kind of know the premise. I don't need to do it, but I should. You're right. I should.
No,
watch
you-
it.
No, I don't think you should.
the Human Centipede doesn't go further and beyond what you think, what you've been
Okay,
told.
right,
But
right.
Tusk, because
Yeah.
you don't really know what's going on, it's so bizarre. No, it's absolutely fucked up on so many ways, so many levels. But it is why I say it, and Eamon will know it. It's kind of got a Selkie vibe going on,
Right, okay.
and you know,
Yeah,
purely
yeah.
off the back end of this.
It certainly
Yeah.
does, yeah. It's like, yeah, it's a movie. I don't know.
It's your man from Sixth Sense, yeah.
Is
Eddie
it?
Joel
Yeah,
Osment.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That other guy's gone around giving out
He's
about
giving
Star
out.
or something.
The other fella's
I think he
loving Sixth
retired
Sense.
from acting. Yeah.
But there's another one actually. Just speaking about the lighthouse, there's another movie called Cold Skin, which seems
Right.
I think it's the same story as Lighthouse from what you're saying there. But every night they are in a lighthouse and they get attacked by these weird Lovecraftian fish people every night, and then
Okay.
they wind up one of them's hooking up with, and there's a little affair, and it's all gets very messy. But it's not a bad movie. But I must watch The Lighthouse. I've never actually seen that.
Yeah, no, I think we'll do a watch along for The Lighthouse because I think it's probably the perfect one for a Monster Fuzz watch along.
Yeah.
So next time you're
Tusk
down,
would be
we'll-
a good one too. To Tom's point,
Yeah.
it's like
Cool.
because I know when I saw Tom, I didn't know whether I liked it or not. I don't think I liked it that much, but a friend of mine saw it and loved it, and I was like, well, I get it. Like, I get why you loved it.
Yeah.
The company I was in that evening, fucking was weird. Now it was like fucking relations had landed on that fucked up the whole thing, and they really wanted to watch it. And they were fucking weirding me out anyway. And then this movie came on, and I'm not great with keeping my emotions in check. So if I'm in a temper, it's there at the surface.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know. And this, but I wasn't compelled to go back and watch the movie. But in my head, I was going, do you know? It's a gas bastard. It's like somebody woke up with a mad dream. Do you know those mental dreams where you've got the bottom half of a fish, say, and you're going around on a pink giraffe, but for some reason you're the president. You know, and also, you know, there's some serious topics being spoken about, environmental issues, and you wake up in the morning and go, well, I can't tell anybody about that because, you know, they'll leave me if I tell them.
Yeah.
But Tusk is like somebody woke up with this idea and went, I'm going to get some money and make this and get some reasonably well-known actors to be in it.
Do you know it started the premise started on a podcast, and I won't say what the premise is because obviously Rob hasn't seen it and I don't want to give it away, but they started making a joke about what that would be like, and then he was like, fuck it, I'll make it. I got that Jay and Silent Bob money sitting around, and that's apparently where it came from. From his, like, he has a whole Smodcast network of loads of podcasts, and two lads joking about that premise on a podcast made that very dark film.
Nice.
Nice. Well, lads, you might get some serious funding for Sentient Mickeys.
Wow.
Well, we're working on that.
Mickey.
That'll be another thing. So, right, lads, let's wrap this sucker up. Tom, have you got anything that you would like to plug? Anything you would like to say before we get on out of here?
I'm delighted to just have hung out with you for the evening.
It's been too long. It's been too long,
great.
Tom. Yeah, it has been too long.
But I'm still a little on the fence. I mean, I'm not ruling out the fact that there may have been Selkies. I mean, we've wiped everything fucking else magical about around these islands. So maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But as far as plugging anything, I have my own show, Buckshot, which you have been on. And again, it's my 2 live shows that are coming up. So I suppose if people want to jump on, find me wherever you normally find people. Tom O'Mahony, like it sounds, without the E before the Y, and you'll find me wherever.
Right, yeah, and do try and get around and check out Clattered if you get a chance, guys. It is
It's a good
Saturday.
show. This one,
Yeah.
it is. I'm very, very happy with this. I've
Right.
been trialing it in clubs and stuff just around Christmas, and I've got a couple of gigs coming up this weekend, and I've been and it's sinking nicely to get. It's the best stand up I've ever written, and
right.
it's
Awesome.
and ye would. There's a couple of bits like in it that knowing ye will it'll just sit inside your brains going. Oh, that's the kind of fucking weirdness we want now. That's what we want, and it's
You're saying it's May in Dublin, is it?
May in Dublin,
Right.
yeah.
Perfect. I'll make my way up there for sure. Rob, you can sleep in my spare room if you want.
Yeah, if I stay in Dublin longer than 24 hours, I burn up and disappear into the
Rob
atmosphere.
find himself wandering through Tesco's going, where's the bleeding gear oil? Where's the bleeding gear oil?
So, guys, yeah, Saturday the 23rd of April is in Belfast, and I do recommend making a weekend out of it. Go up and check out Belfast.
What a spot for the weekend.
Yeah, get an old Airbnb or something and have the crack. Even if you're up in Scotland and you love Tom's great accent, you can get the ferry over and fucking check it out.
Off you pop.
So, Emo, have you got anything you'd like to add there before we get out of here?
Usual thanks to everyone. Big thanks to you for coming on, Tom. It's been good crack. So we'll get you on for another suitably Irish cryptid one of these days. But yeah,
I don't mind. I think we did. Did we do Area 50? Did we do?
That was Gordo, was it? Did he?
No,
he
you
did
did-
Jabba Fofi.
I know. I did Aliens or something witchy one time.
I think it was
we
the
did the mini
fuzz.
fuzz.
the mini fuzz. Yeah. So I
I
don't mind, because let's be honest, lads, there'll be smatterings of facts and, well written stuff by you throughout, but the majority of it will be just teetering on the edge of a bell end through the
of course.
it'll be just circling the foreskin throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's where I live.
It's like a circumcision that leaves you in less pain. It's good crack, a good crack,
And it's
circumcision.
completely unreligious.
Completely unreligious, purely hygienic.
Rightio. I've been Rob.
I've been Eamon.
This has been Monster Fuzz. Over and out, folks.
Bye bye.
Click. Thank you very much, the boys, for having me on. Oh God, that was good crack. Right, like I said, Clattered, go have a look. If you any of my socials, if you go to the link in the bio, you will see there'll be a tag in there for anything you need to find me or follow me on anything. But the Clattered tickets for April 23rd in the Limelight, they're up for sale now. Dublin soon coming. Galway will be up later in the year. Portlaoise and Cork should be fairly much around the corner as well. If you are listening on Spotify, just to remind you, give it the 5 stars, please. It does help. Also, I think you can do it on Apple Podcasts as well. If you're not a Patreon, why not become a Patreon? Support the show. Get all that extra stuff I was talking about at the top. And the crack will be nighty. Look it. Have a lovely weekend. And I'll talk to you again next week. Good luck and pleasant things.